Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently putting this overkill machine in orbit of Moho. Now, this is going to be very interesting here. We need to match planes with Moho, which is a little bit of an unusual one. So that's going to be 7 degrees. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a little out of plane. And we'll just get that done here. That's going to be a fair amount of delta V. Good thing this is an overkill machine. Look at that for the just for the inclination change. That's 1100 dV. That's a lot, no doubt about that. But we've got 5,000 in this tank alone, and then another 2,500 in this tank, so we're not too concerned about that, to be honest. Let's get slowly, ever so slowly, rotated into position for this burn, and that burn is going to be in 104 days. So we'll have to warp over towards that. We should just be locked here. There we go, that'll do. And let's warp on forward. So where's the sun right now? There it is. Hello, Kerbal. Fantastic. So this is going to be a good chunk of our DV here, no doubt about it. But this machine should be able, I think, to get to any planetary body in the Kerbin system. This isn't a future version of KSP2 with interstellar travel, but I don't think that's in the current version, is it? I'm pretty sure it's not. KSP2 is so bare bones right now, but I mean, I don't blame the developers. It's Private Division's fault. At any rate, we are going to tick on forward a little bit further here. 30 seconds, 20, 10, and mark. Beautiful. I'm going to physics warp here, because this is going to be a bit of a lengthy burn at about 2 minutes. What is that in the distance there? There's a little dot right there. Is that Kerbin? That'll be Kerbin. Okay. Hi, Kerbin. I didn't expect to see you here. Just a tiny little infinitesimal dot right there. Beautiful. So we can see here that we have... ooh, that's sensitive in physics warp. Oh, that's really sensitive. Okay, let's come out of physics warp here and change our angling here. Something approximately like this. That'll do. We've got about 30 more seconds of burn here. Beautiful. 10 more seconds of burn. Let's come out of physics warp for this last little bit. Ooh, okay. We're having some difficulties pointing directly at the node at this moment, but that's fine. No major issues there. This is probably good enough, to be honest. How are we doing? Oh yeah, that's good enough. So, what would an intercept with Moho look like? And we can see our apoapsis is a little on the high end. Not surprising, since I didn't really look at that. Let's take a look at this. What do we got? Actually, that timing is kind of okay. Kind of. We need it to be, like, back over here, right? This would be a pretty speedy flyby, since it's not directly at the periapsis. We probably do want to instead have it be something kind of like this, right? Where we have it intercept right at the periapsis for braking purposes. So something like that would be much better. Now, we want this to be a polar orbit and a low polar orbit to start with. So let's bring it on up and slightly in. That's very sensitive. Okay. So something kind of like this. This is not a perfectly polar orbit, but we can adjust that later. I'd want to bring it slightly inward. Would we need radial for that? No, this seems to be decent. Okay, I'm going to put this at about a 50-kilometer orbit. Now, one thing I want to check here is in here. Atmosphere present, no. What is considered the safe orbital mass, or rather the safe orbital area of Moho? I don't actually know. That's the resources there? Yeah, I don't think it says here. We're supposed to be in a 10-kilometer orbit according to the contract. I'm not certain that 10 kilometers is safe. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's get into position for this burn, and we can see it's a pretty hefty burn. Moho is a difficult place to get to. No doubt about that, but we've got more than enough DV for it in here. So let's get started on this warp. There we go. And I will be back close to the end of this warp with some information about the minimum height on Moho. See you guys in a moment. Okay, so here we are basically in position for this burn. This is of course going to be not quite a pure retrograde burn, but it's basically a retrograde burn. And I do have some information according to a random post that I found on the KSP forum that is like 8 years old. So hopefully it's true. According to that, the highest peaks of Moho are about 6 kilometers. So a 10-kilometer orbit in theory should be fine. We're going to start our burn here in about 10 seconds. So let's get through this here. This is going to be a relatively lengthy burn, and we're going to have to make several corrections to it most likely. But 2, 1, and 0. Let's go. We are going to physics warp this burn to get through it as quickly as we can. And for now, just locking it on retrograde will be absolutely fine. It'll probably drift off in a different direction due to that small amount of radial burn, or I think anti-radial, or rather anti-normal. Normal is the term I'm looking for. I think it'll drift off towards the end of the burn, but that's fine. I think, anyway. So we've got about 1 kilometer per second to continue to burn here and slow ourselves down. Beautiful. 40 seconds left in the burn. And yeah, we can definitely see it starting to be offset a bit from the retrograde node. Taking it out of physics warp, and let's just make our way very gently over this direction-ish. Cool. About 3 meters per second to go here. I'm just chasing that node a bit. This is probably good enough. What's that orbit look like? Not exactly very polar, eh? Let's see what it looks like if we go to anti-normal here and see what a very, very gentle correction does. Actually, yeah, that's about right. Okay, now it's not. Let's hop over towards radial out. And let's see what that adjustment does. Oh, that's very sensitive. Okay, let's swap over to radial in and bring that back, and I'm going to thrust limit this down to 0.5%. And we'll just make a small correction here. Beautiful. I'm not too concerned about the periapsis here. We will adjust that once we get there. For now, what I really want is to be approximately here or so. We'll be able to adjust this a little later on. Actually, looking at this, I can see that we should probably change it a little bit more. I want it to be basically evenly bisecting this. Cool. So we'll see what that does. Next, we are, of course, going to add a maneuver here. That's going to be a retrograde burn. A pretty hefty one. Oh my. That is a very, very hefty retrograde burn. I did not expect it to be quite this bad when we're coming in right at the periapsis here. We're coming in very fast. Indeed. That is a very hefty burn indeed. Well, that's a spicy one. That is a spicy, spicy boy. So we would be somewhere around here. This is running us out of fuel. I did not expect to be passing through quite this quickly. Okay, we may want to make an adjustment where we are right now. So we are up over here, right? So if we were to make an adjustment here and set Moho as our target, we might be able to bring ourselves in slightly better. I mean, that's going to be slightly awkward there, for sure. I feel like this should be good, but it isn't. It definitely is not. I mean, we can unthrust limit this, for sure. That's the thing that we can do there. We need to find a better interception here. One thing we can do is we can circularize our orbit and make this less elliptical, right? And go for it again. So we would go to prograde here. This is unmanned. So we can have it be waiting for a long period of time. Take it to prograde here and bring this right on up and set our periapsis to be approximately here. Then at the periapsis, we would go for circularization, but we would actually need it to be somewhere around... because of the elliptical nature of this orbit, that makes it a little awkward. We're basically at the apoapsis right now, right? So let's push this out a little bit further. This is definitely an inefficient way to do things, but I want to fully encapsulate this orbit and then right about here, perform a retrograde burn like this. That's still most of our remaining DV. Most indeed. I definitely thought that this overkill machine would do the trick. I'm wondering if maybe we need to send a refueling mission, which would be exciting. Definitely exciting. If we were to do that... well, we would definitely be better off... I wonder if we should find just a different intercept time. So a couple of orbits here. Like this. Or something. This should be subtracting an orbit. I wonder what that would end up looking like. And then from here, performing a braking burn. Okay, that's still incredibly fast. Incredibly fast that we're coming in here. No doubt about it. That's another 3,900. Okay. Well, I think it's official. I think we need a braking burn. So, with that being the case, or rather, I think we need a refuel for this. So with that being the case, we're going to push this up. We're going to lose some of this fuel. Yes, I'm not going to stage this stage. We're going to push this up to be like halfway, like so. Yeah, I want to push this a little further. And then about here, we would bring this in to do something along the lines of this. Although I don't want it to be there. I want it to be about here. So that's going to be a lot of burn, right? Here's a question. Should we just move this fuel like so? Probably. Now, I don't think we're going to have the delta V to quite pull off this burn. I suspect. And that's okay. We don't necessarily need it. I just want to make ourselves be in a slightly more stable orbit here for our refueling mission. We're definitely going to need a refueler here. I did not expect that. But okay, we're just coming in incredibly fast to Moho. I mean, Moho is one of the harder planets to get to, so I'm not shocked about this one. Well, let's bring this on down. We'll see how much of this burn we can get done. We're going to burn out all of the remaining fuel here. And that's fine. We're going to then send a refueling mission, which is basically going to be the same thing, but without this up here. And it'll need to have enough fuel to get itself here. To get itself here and refuel this enough, right? So that'll be fine. We can definitely do that. Burn time of 1 minute, 11 seconds. Yeah, I expect that we don't have enough fuel for this full burn. That's fine. We're just trying to get ourselves into a slightly better orbit for this. So we're just going to warp our way through this, and we're going to burn here until we are burned out of fuel entirely. So we're just going to burn out everything that we've got here and just try to enter a bit of a circularized orbit here, hoping that we don't get captured by Eve. And it looks like we're not going to. So that looks good. We're going to park here. And now we're going to get a refueling mission going. So let's head back to the Space Center. I did not expect to need a refueling on this, but I should have, now that I think about it. Capture at Moho is very difficult. So that's fine. We're going to get a refueling mission, no big deal. So let's design that craft and get this underway. We're going to have to rendezvous it, but we don't have a docking port. We'll just clamp on with claws. That's fine. I'm going to base it off of this same craft. But it's going to be a little bit of a heavier lifter. And we're going to be doing fine for cash, I think. So we're not going to be having anything up here, right? We're going to ditch all of this. All of this is going to go away. And then we're going to base this off of a Probodobodyne Octo 2 for now. We are going to need a reaction wheel for it. So I'm going to put in a small reaction wheel here. Actually, I'm not. We'll come back to that. I'm going to put in a... I do want to have a relay antenna. I think having a ComSat in orbit around the sun would be useful. So let's do a relay antenna, but I'm not going to put it there. We're going to need a claw here. We're probably going to want to have some form of RCS on this. That is way too big. So I'm going to do some RCS here for the actual docking maneuver. Then we're going to put on a claw for our coupling. We can just get a grabbing unit junior. Then from here, we're going to have this take fuel tanks. So we're going to do fuel tank adapters, and it's going to need to be, like, I think this guy? Actually, that guy's pretty good. And then we take a 2500, or rather a 2.5K, right? No, actually, that's not quite the right adapter. Probably this guy, then. That's a little on the small side there. So which adapter do we actually need? Adapter. Okay. So we would need one of, I mean, that's an NCS adapter there. I mean, it's really weird looking. We'll not go with that. One of these adapters is correct. That's a Rockamax brand, but I want a fuel adapter here. So we would go for... not you. I believe it goes this one, then this one to go to 2.5 meter. So we then would need a fuel tank adapter that goes down to this guy, like that. Okay, so something like this. And then all of this attaches below, right? We would need to have enough fuel in this to make sure that we were going to get to our target location and have enough fuel to transfer at least some. We need solar panels on it for its secondary mission of becoming a ComSat. So that would be something like these. We don't need much more than a couple of 1x6s. That'll be fine there. The antenna would go like out over this way. It would be a little bit awkward through the atmosphere, but that would probably be fine. We would definitely want a large reaction wheel here. Definitely. So we would put in a large reaction wheel there. Now, what would this liftoff velocity be at this juncture? 1.47. It's a little low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to beef that up with some SRBs. So we're going to strap on a couple of extra SRBs onto this as well. We'll go to coupling and we'll grab a couple of these guys. And we're going to put SRBs here. And those are, of course, going to be... we're going to go for, like, I don't know, Clydesdales? Or Polluxes? Polluxes are probably fine. So bring those on down like so. Maybe a little further down if we can. Yeah, we can. So position them about like that, so they're about at the same level as these guys. Looks good. We would also put on our standard hemispherical fuel tanks here. Like so. With the idea, of course, being that we run these fuel tanks out into the side tanks. So the fuel drains from here first, then it drains from here, then it drains from here. So that's a little bit of extra fuel for that first stage, but we've also got just that extra little bit of kick there. Putting us up to 1.68. Okay, cool. So that gives us a lot of extra altitude, in theory. Now, do we feel like we have enough fuel up here? If we've got that extra headroom, what would it look like if we tossed in an extra 32 tank? Like this. 1.6? That's actually right on the money for where I like to be for thrust to weight. So that looks good. We would definitely need to strut this in. 100%. That is not connecting where I wanted it to. Okay. So we connect that like so, and then I would also connect it up here. I mean, it is connected there. But I would be interested in actually connecting these out to the sides, just to ensure that we have stability out there, like that. Okay, now the main danger here would be detachment. These could potentially be pushed directly in, particularly this one could be pushed directly in if we're not directly on prograde when these detach. So that's a potential issue. But I think that we just send this up and call it good. Do we need anything else? I mean, potentially batteries, but in theory, batteries shouldn't be that big of a deal. We can toss in a 1K rechargeable battery pack. Actually, we would need like a 200. So something like this. The entire idea behind it is it just exists to deliver fuel. So we'll call this the Life Refueler. Perfect. My main concern about it is the detachment of the SRBs. As long as we're in prograde, we should be okay there, especially since we're still going to have the kick from the two side liquid fuel boosters. That should be okay. But we are lifting a hefty amount of additional fuel here. But we just need to get this thing part way there. I hope that this is going to do the trick. It is a lot more fuel than the other one had. And we just need to get enough fuel to do what we need to do, right? So let's SAS on, throttle up, and off we go. What happens if we need to refuel our refueler? That would be awkward. Off we go. Beautiful. So we're decently quick off the pad, of course, and we know that these SRBs are going to detach relatively swiftly. So let's start getting ourselves some horizontal speed here. Cool. And we'll try to be thrown out in the correct direction this time as well. That would help. That would definitely help. So we're going to head on through here. We've got about 18 seconds left in the SRBs. We definitely have some wiggling ongoing. But as long as we make it through the atmosphere okay, that should be fine. Cool. About 10 seconds now until SRB detachment. So I'm just holding position here. And now we're going to lock to prograde. We'll keep an eye on that apoapsis. It's looking good. 5, 4, this is not full seconds. 3, 2, just double checking that's empty. 1, and SRBs are gone. Clean detachment. Good. From here, we should be over at the horizon. Cool. Except that our side boosters are going to burn out very shortly. Back to prograde. Okay, back to prograde, detaching, and clean detachment. Cool. Now we should be over at the horizon. We can see that our apoapsis is really very high at this moment. We'll target an apoapsis of, I don't know, like 250 maybe. Yeah, this seems reasonably fine for the moment. Cool. So, I mean, that's definitely... The liquid boosters burned out a little faster than I would have liked. It probably would have been best if we had done 2 additional liquid boosters instead of the solid boosters. I think that that would have been ideal. Okay, we can extend our solar panels. And so we shall. And we're moving a little slowly. This is a very, very heavy load. So that's not super shocking. We've got about 6,000 Delta V up here, but I would prefer not to use up at least this fuel. We'll see about that. Okay. 900 meters per second left, so we definitely make it into orbit here. And yeah, we'll just circularize here. This is fine. We've got plenty of altitude. It's not like we actually need the additional horizontal speed at this moment. So we'll do this right about like that. Fantastic. And we'll just get ourselves into orbit. Now, the real question here is, how are we going to do on getting into the rendezvous without burning too much of this fuel? I don't know. That's going to be interesting. I'm very much winging this. We'll see how it goes. We need to start up this burn, and so we shall. We'll get ourselves into orbit here and have a little bit left over. Cool. It's also very possible that it's due to timing why we need so much fuel to brake when we get there. That's, I think, very likely. Like, Moho is hard to get to, but I don't think it's that hard, usually. I think our timing is just really weird. That's a distinct possibility. Okay, we'll call this good enough. We're in orbit. So, from here, we want to... I'm going to not do a gravity escape, or a gravity assist, I think. I think we're just going to push out of here. And which direction do we want to push? We want to push, I think, towards the sun. So we want to be prograding... Well, not that. Okay, we want to be prograding, I think, right about here. And just escape velocity like that. Yes. Approximately like so. Cool. That gets us pretty close to what we need. Of course, our timing is a little wonky. We may want to have it be like out here and then go in for the dive from like here. That might be a better option. So for now, we'll do that. We're going to rotate on over here. We've got 247 meters per second left here. This does get us a good long ways, so I like it. We'll prepare for this burn. And then I want to see what this is going to take to intercept before we end this episode. And perhaps I'll see if I can find a better intercept, but I kind of doubt it. So we're going to just move on forward here. I've overshot this a bit, but 13 seconds in the big scheme of things does not matter here. So we're going to start dipping into this fuel up here, right? But we just want to make sure that we don't have to use too much of it. Okay. So off we go. As long as we deliver a decent chunk of it, it should be reasonably fine. So this is going to be about a 3-minute burn. Our thrust to weight is not amazing here. We've definitely picked up a bit of a sway. But there we go. I don't like burning out this fuel, but sure. Okay, just adjusting our heading there a little bit. We have quite a sway here in physics warp. Let's get rid of that. Cool. There we go. About 1 more minute left on the burn here. Okay. Little bit left. 60 meters per second. But we're off. 40, 30, 20, 10. And we'll call that good enough. Okay, so from here, we are, of course, going to, at this periapsis, we're going to set this as our target. We do have a pretty big inclination change that we need to do. And we know that's pretty rough, actually. We know that's like 1,000 dV. That is going to be rough, indeed. I wonder if we can get there a little bit better without fully matching planes. So let's see what it would look like if we went for an intercept here. What would that timing look like? Okay. Let's move our way on around. Obviously, we're not, like, circularized around this, right? We might be able to find a halfway decent encounter. Hello. There's a quasi-interesting encounter out over this way. Emphasis on quasi-interesting. Okay. Well, we can definitely try to find one here. Ew, I don't want to do the full match. No, I don't want to warp. Stop it. Stop warping. Okay. I want to find ourselves an encounter here, and I think that we can find probably a quasi-decent one. What would this look like if we were to... Oh, that's a lot of orbits for not much difference. Okay. That's pretty exciting. Yeah, that's not many orbits at all. Okay. Or actually, that is a whole lot of orbits, I should say. So, out of curiosity, if we were to be out over here and come in this direction. Right. It is going to require... Ooh, hello, what's this one? That's going to be a pretty big relative velocity, right? I mean, it's not even close enough to be showing us the relative velocity. I'd like to find one right about here, right? That would be the ideal scenario. And this is a lot of fuel. So, realistically, we might want to try to just find a relatively minimal one, which would end up being, like, from this apoapsis, we would move in like this, and then it would just be a lot... Actually, no, it would have to be from the descending-ascending node, I think. Because of the planes. Right? So it would be out over, like, this way. And then we would just have to have a long wait. That would be a really long wait. It's going the wrong way from here, so probably from the descending node. So we would look to be out over here. That is a really long wait. Really, really awkward timing on that one. But this is only 600 meters per second to get there, right? And what do we have here? I mean, that's not a terrible intersection here. We can fine-tune that in with probably some radial, but my question is, yeah, that relative speed of like 3 kilometers per second there, we can definitely dial that in. And this is something that's going to take quite a bit of time, most likely, to find a relatively efficient way to do this. Most likely. So I'm going to do this off camera. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. And next episode, we're going to be pretty much ready to do this interception. Hopefully. A very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, James, Shadowwolf, Mlohan80, Rogue Corvid, Kentogan, Andy Magar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.